Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Love getting together with him because he gives us insight through the eyes of science. He's had many, many eureka moments over the years. He's got a fantastic memoir. He's studied social phenomenon and all of that over many, many decades. He's taught and so much more. And we've got him back today. We're going to talk about, I believe it's the double shadow. What is life? Is life what we really think it is? Is it? We're going to look into that.
No, it isn't.
It
isn't.
I was afraid that was the answer. Grant Venerable is back with us. Hey, Grant, how are you doing?
Fine, Stephen. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. So life is an illusion?
It's one kind of illusion. And of course, I think that's based on a Greek word for play, the play of something. And we speak of illusions. But I'm realizing more and more, especially in the last few days, we create the illusions that we call life. I think that's not a popular idea for many people because we as Western people and other people feel that everything has to be logical and scientific and empirical, and it's not. It's about one of the last things that it is. That may be about 5%. The rest is what's happening up here in the subconscious mind. And I had a great whopping example of having been here now for a month in the Yucca Valley. And it's a completely new experience. It's like being in a new life, really. It's peaceful for one thing, but it's peaceful for a different reason. The desert has a way of buffing out, of cushioning what's real life, what passes for real life in the bustling, noisy cities. And where I live now is 2,000 feet in elevation. And the mountains around me are another 2,000 feet above this elevation. And they're mystical experiences. It's like where everything began anyway. I drove out one night a few days ago just to look at the Milky Way because I couldn't even see it from my apartment complex. And there it was. You just can't see that in cities. I couldn't even pick out Orion, which is my favorite constellation, because it was so overwhelmed by all of the stars that are up there behind and in front of Orion. But what's happening this morning is celebration. I probably had one of the quickest house sales I've ever had in my life. And that amounts to about 8 houses that I've purchased and then sold. The last house I had for 26 years in Georgia. Spending 26 years in the deep South is no small matter because it puts together a picture of the nation and its history and its reality you cannot get anywhere else. And I was able to bring my past insights into Georgia as I went into academic administration there. And then while I was there, I was in Pennsylvania for 9 years, but I was always back home in Georgia every 2 weeks. So I never lost touch with Georgia until I fully retired in 2011. And an inner voice said, sit down at the computer and begin writing. I have some things to dictate to you. Well, who was saying that? This inner voice just said, start. Start with writings you've already done, and then start to form some rhetoric around that, which is exactly what I did, and came out with a volume 1. And now they're out in 4 ebook volumes called Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown, Art, Science, Oracles, Kinfolk. It really sums up everything anyone ever deals with. I didn't know it was going to come out the way it came out, but it was projecting exactly what's happening in the world today, whether it's our nation or in Asia, wherever it is, Africa. And by that, I mean, one of the insights that came out at the end of my writing, somewhere around mid 2024, I realized there's something that is a double shadow. It is a shadow, but it's double. And it tells us exactly what our experiences are. This suggests there's a mirror image aspect to life.
Can you go deeper? Can you go deeper into that when we talk about the double shadow, the mirror effect of life? What's going on there?
What's going on? That's from the prequel to the memoir, which I introduced more in depth the last time we spoke. And that has to do with two facets of life that are mirror images of each other, which in algebraic mathematics or literature is the complementary duality of existence. It's all in our heads. It doesn't really exist, but we think it does because it's so useful to think that way in terms of all of the dualities, the good and the evil, the dark and the light, and the biblical scriptures are filled with it. Why? Because even the ancients recognized this. There's this mirror image. Well, one you could call the dark side and one we call the light side. So when we are watching the news or listening to it and reacting to it, we're reacting to a mirror of ourselves. And I finally got that clear with what happened on Friday. Just this past Friday, I had created the sale of my house. And I knew I had to be more disciplined in my mind, my logical mind, than I ever had in my life. I knew at base, real estate, selling and buying property, is ultimately the most spiritual experience you could ever have. Do I mean church? Do I mean religion? No, I don't know what I mean, but I know what I experienced. And what I experienced is doubt is the easiest thing that we can encounter as an obstacle in life. Doubt about what all that we want to achieve, whether it's happiness or a nice career, a job, an income. Doubt is the big enemy if we let it be.
It is in everything, and doubt's best friend is fear.
In terms of that, my best friends, or many of them, I don't have that many at this age. They start to get less as they go off into the great unknown. But I have to watch it not to get too emotionally involved in a conversation with friends and acquaintances who bring up, well, the market's kind of flat now. You'll be lucky if you can sell within 3 months. And I've learned how to say, I'm not going there in my mind. I said, let's continue this conversation in a few days when I have something better to talk about. And I don't tell them that it's about doubts, that it's introducing or trying to introduce to my consciousness. I just don't allow it. What I have to focus on is the mirror image side, the flip side, the vision of where I want to be headed, which is a quick sale of a house that has a lot of work to do before anyone can live in it. So it means selling on an as-is basis, finding a very bright, intelligent, experienced real estate broker who knows how to do that, who can represent to potential buyers. Well, this seller is not interested in putting a whole lot of money into fixing up this house. So it's been priced to sell so that you can fix it up the way you want it. You want the bathroom changed, you get to do that yourself. But you know what? It worked. It didn't mean it was simple because details kept coming up. Those are the little devils that you have to live with. And the little devils are all over the place. They're not only on the evening news, they're not in our politics, and we think we're getting upset with certain politicians, whoever they are. Those are just little devils that tend to spoil Well, the little foxes that spoil the grapes. That's from the scriptures. It's the little foxes that you have to watch. I had to do more. I had to find more actuaries. Well, not actuaries. What's the other term when you're trying to represent your signature, and you have to get it notarized? So you have to find a notary public.
Yep.
Well, here I am. I wanted to sell this house and do the escrow from California, not Georgia. I knew it could be done. Not too many brokers actually knew that because they'd only worked in Georgia. As well, you have to have an attorney and be present. I said, I'm not going to come back to Georgia just to sign a few documents, even for a house sale. And I did not. What happened was these very smart attorneys to run the escrow process knew how to do it under Georgia law and California law. But it took some maneuvering with finding a good notary, which I couldn't find at the moment it's just been last Wednesday.
Wow.
Here in this town, this little desert town beside the biggest marine base in the world. And I had to take some leaps of consciousness in my own unknown, called footsteps in the chaotic unknown. My unknown got real chaotic last Wednesday on the verge of this escrow to sell the house. And the attorney said, well, we got to have this or we'll have to delay the escrow. Oh, no, that's not what I want to hear. So there I'm in the midst of uncertainty and chaos, looked at the search engine and looked for a UPS store closest, and that was 23 miles away. And the little foxes were coming up again. Well, what if they can't do it? You've wasted a 23-mile trip and the gasoline. I said, shut up, voices. I'm not going there with you today.
The voice of doubt.
I got my posterior in that car and drove down the highway, got to the UPS. They had all the answers. It was an act of faith, and I had to step out on it into the unknown, chaotic unknown. And this gentleman who did the actuarial business said, here, we'll sit right down, Grant, and we'll take care of it right here. It took him about 20 minutes. It was done. My fingerprints were done. My signature was done. And he said, now take this half-mile down the highway to Walgreens. Go to the camera department. That's where the FedEx is. This attorney's office is giving you the FedEx label. It would cost you $50 to do it yourself. I went down there. They did it. But then I got a first tracking message from FedEx because it missed the pickup, the FedEx pickup. This isn't going to get there until possibly Saturday after escrow closing. I said, oh, my goodness. I said, well, again, got to just step out on faith, get it done, get what I can do. I can't manage the flow, the transport of that package. But I was getting the tracking messages on a regular basis. They said, well, it could be there Friday by 11 o'clock. Well, the escrow meeting begins at 9 o'clock. They pushed it as late as possible. What happened? That not actuarial, but the notarized package got there at the beginning of the escrow. And it all worked. It got in Georgia at 9:30 Eastern time.
Why do you think those things present themselves? The simplest thing, simple transaction. They have this, they have that. We have an issue with this. We have an issue with that. What's at play?
It's life. And the more of it you live and handle, the more it gets manageable. And there I am. I was getting this image of experiences in my life. the first really difficult, the little foxes that came up, things that have happened, and how I got through it. I wanted to talk about the story of the handheld calculator and the slide rule. I also wanted to talk about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is no more than a handheld calculator. Nobody may believe that, but it's true. My dad got through college. He got through Caltech with one of the fanciest darn slide rules you ever saw. A big slide rule with a magnifier glass where the fine line goes across all of the numerical slides on that, the scales on that rule. And we were so impressed with him, how he could sit down and look at this slide rule and do these complex calculations with arithmetic, logarithms, exponentials, and get the answers. But he would not teach us, at least me. I wanted to learn how to use the slide rule by the 11th grade. Dear Dad would not allow it. He would not let me touch the slide rule.
Wow.
Why will I not let you learn it now? You'll get it when it's time for you to learn it in school, but not now. And the reason is, I want you to get the concept of the arithmetic first. You have to learn logarithms and how to work them by hand. Do multiplication by converting the numbers, big complex numbers, into logarithms, which are really exponential numbers. Now, if you don't understand what that is, don't worry about it. Whenever you study logarithms and exponentials, you'll get it. But right now, take my word, Dad was right. If I had learned the slide rule, it would have been a shortcut around understanding what the slide rule is doing. It was constructed to fold numerical magnitude. In other words, if it's doing calculations in the 10 scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 100, all the way from 0 to 99.9999 is in the 10 scales. And if you don't have a feel for the magnitude, how big 10 or 20 or 50 are, you're not going to really master the slide rule or what it really is doing for you. So, and then you get to the hundreds, like 100 to 999.9999 and so forth. But then the numbers are in scales, and each scale is a magnitude. Now go the other direction, from 0 to fractions of a number. Are you with me, Stephen?
We're out of time. I want to dig even deeper into this. I want to hold on double shadow, if we could, and return to that, because, and the mirror effect.
That's where this is. Like you go backward the other way to 0.1. 0.5, a half, 0.7, and then 0.01, all that. But the time I did learn the slide rule, I understood the quantity, the bigness of the smallness of the number. Same came up. This is where the mirror image of life is coming in. Same thing comes up. By 1970, we're getting our first handheld calculators run on a battery. Professors didn't really want their students to use handheld calculators on a test.
Isn't it interesting that used to be the norm, and now it's the norm. It's perfectly acceptable. I want to keep going on this, but we are out of time. They're going to get in the queue. I would love to dig back into this if we could do that next time.
Let's do that, because we're right on the cusp.
I know.
of where we're going. And what we think is the truth, because we hear it on the news media, is not the truth. It's something your mind acts upon with the media reports. Let's leave it right there and come back to the slide rule, why that has meaning, and the handheld and artificial intelligence. It's all an illusion.
Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown is the memoir. Do a search, Grant Venerable. You will find it. A lot of insight in there, and decades of study, research, teaching, and all of this. And Grant, thank you for being here today. We will reconvene, as they say.
Thank you for persevering here.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.